Samuel. And I'm sorry, Samuel, what's your dog's name again?
Elizabeth, but you can call her Liz or Lizzie Dog.
Lizzie Dog. Okay, I like Liz and Samuel. It sounds like a proper team. You kind of
It
sound
sounds
like
like a
a
couple.
yes. Okay, everyone, I have the amazing Samuel Wilkins and his partner Liz, and I have in lieu of an introduction, I'm going to say something about Samuel that I met you on LinkedIn. And the thing that I, the impression I got of Samuel that kind of stuck with me, I'm not a fan of LinkedIn. And I'm not a fan of most of the posts on the site. There's a very business bent to it. PR, marketing, it reminds me of all the corporate jobs that I spent time in for my sins. And I just don't like it, except, to post the occasional call. But Samuel's posts are completely different. And every once in a while, you see somebody's work, their writing, and you see the person behind it. And I have to say, that's the way I feel about Samuel. Like, I don't know if you've ever had your intelligence tested, but it's definitely above and beyond. You have you have a kind of bravery in the things you post. I know that you have your causes. We all have our causes. We all have our things that we excel at and that we want to push and that we want to talk about and that we want to educate people about. But your voice is so strong and so clear and so unapologetically Samuel that I think it's what people go on about authenticity, but we rarely encapsulate it. And I was fascinated with the opportunity of getting to interview you and find out about you and how you develop the confidence to be so unapologetically yourself, because we all strive to do it. I can do it sometimes, but you seem to just be very secure in who you are as a human being. And I don't know many people that can do that. So tell me about 10-year-old Samuel.
Wow. Well, before I do, I would like to say I don't try to be myself. I try to be my best self. Because, of course, if I was to be completely authentic, you would see the bad parts as well. And they talk about authenticity, but if someone has a very quick temper or swears a great deal, then that's still being authentic. So
That's a good
I prefer
point.
to be my best self.
I like that. And I think to be honest, I think in the most part you achieved that. But back to 10-year-old Samuel. What were you doing? Where were you living? What were your dreams and hopes? Were you living in the moment? Were you happy? Bring us into the life of 10-year-old Samuel.
Well, at 10 years old, I've been 10 years blind because I was actually born blind and I was only the second in my family to be blind. My brother was also blind. At 10 years old, I had finished, well, nearly finished primary school. I was a fairly happy child and annoying my parents by playing with tape machines, constantly playing same bits over and over again, as kids do. And I enjoyed pressing buttons, seeing what things did. And in fact, when I was younger, they created a character, my parents created a character called Mr. Fiddle. And I enjoyed those bits because I always fiddled things. And I had a Braille teacher, and I was starting to read in my head because I was able to read out, because I always thought I had to read things out loud, otherwise I wasn't reading them. But I wasn't really reading for pleasure, but I had grown up around audiobooks and radio dramas. So I was used to books done by Chivers Audio and dramas by the Rainbow Theatre back in the 80s, although I wasn't around when they were produced. And Hodder Children's, Tempo, and the BBC. I expect some of the people here will have probably heard those names. And I was just interested in doing music a lot of the time. And I just wanted to, I didn't really have any job aspirations, but I was very keen on IT. I wanted to do computer programming at the time. But of course, later on, I decided not to. I thought it wasn't really my thing.
Wait,
But of
so
course, that's
let
what.
me let me ask you something. Have you, and in case I know Kim is here, if people in the audience, the screen is split. I don't Samuel's not right in the middle because Liz might join in, and we're leaving a spot for Liz for when she wants to pop in and out of the call. And Liz is Samuel's guide dog. Gorgeous.
Yes, she's lying beside me
Yeah.
on the floor, stretched out.
So we've got a spot at the table for her for when she wants to join. Have you had your IQ tested? Because it was the
No.
first thing I thought reading your posts, that it's up there. I mean, really high.
No, I haven't had my IQ tested. I think, though, the reason why I sound older than I am is because I had very knowledgeable parents. My dad was a bit of a Mr. Fix-It, and my mum used to be a science teacher, and then she worked with in a council department for education. And I think it's because of my parents and also my Christian upbringing that has been able to help with this. And I know you've said that my posts sound authentic. I am very careful. I always think about what I post before I do so, because I don't want to say anything that would intentionally cause controversy. I don't like causing controversy just for the heck of it.
Thank
So I'm
you.
always
That
very
and that
deliberate.
right there, that is okay. It's hard to put this into words without sounding like a jerk. But different generations have different ways of wording things. And so I'll put my hand up that some of the things I say, I have habits that these days are frowned upon. I had somebody on one of the calls say I triggered them by saying the word diet and that I was harming people. And what was the other one? Oh, yeah, I say you guys to everyone. But, it's just I am a product, but I would never say anything to hurt people. But your posts give a fascinating insight into what it's like being an audiobook narrator without being able to see, and the difficulties which people need to be aware of and understand. But you don't ever sound like you're slapping people on the hand. And because you don't sound like that, I soak up your messages. I don't feel like I'm being told off for not being aware of every single thing and always saying everything perfectly. I feel like you're trying to help me so we can help each other. And that, I think, is genius.
Well, thank you. It's because I know that I mustn't take offense at everything people say. I don't have a problem with being called blind. In fact, some people might try to do slurs, but the thing is, I own those. I haven't been physically healed, but I feel I have been emotionally healed so that I can own my disability, and that reduces its uh, its effect on me. Because if I start slapping people on the hand and telling people to check their biases, I could very easily do that without looking at my own biases. As it says in the book of Matthew, chapter 5, why look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye, but not notice the plank in your own eye? So I try to look to see if there's a plank in my own eye before I take the speck out of anybody else's.
But I mean, credit to you as a human being, because this is how, because as we said before the call, I'm not religious. And you and I can have this conversation, and you're extremely religious, and we can agree with each other because we have things in common. We all have things in common. But because you own your beliefs and your ideas, and I own my beliefs and my ideas, then we can share the best of our beliefs without trying to change each other and understand. And I think that you achieve that literally just in posts on LinkedIn, which personally I think is a soulless place.
Well, maybe you should show some examples of the posts. But as I said, I'm not trying to impose my religion on others. In
Yeah.
fact, the Bible tells us not to. In fact, we are to be an example to people.
And it's clear. You make it clear. And because of that, I respect your message. I respect what you're saying. And okay, so there's so much I want to get to. So you're this you did say something interesting. You said that you own your disability. Have you, because you were born with the disability. Did you always own it? Or when you were young, was there a time that you had to overcome that?
Well, a lot of times it was mainly about my parents getting me to do things that I could do rather than things I couldn't do, and also helping me to be independent because they knew there were going to be times when I'd have to stand on my own 2 feet and I'd have to be independent. They did not foster a spirit of dependency. And that is one of the best things they could have done. And they put me in a mainstream school where I could be around people who did not have my disability. And that meant I could interact with people and it would allow me to get better at working with the sighted world because there are a lot of people who have been blind, who have gone to special schools for the blind, who have found it very difficult to get into the sighted world. They found it difficult to integrate because they weren't getting the help. They wouldn't get the help they received in school. But putting me in mainstream schools did help. Of course, there were problems. There were situations when I wanted to do things and I couldn't. And there were situations where I felt I wasn't making friends because people were in cliques. And quite frankly, I found it easier talking to the girls than the boys because I couldn't do the rough sports that boys did. I just found girls easier to talk to.
Okay, so this is, and again, I'm going to be really honest here. So this is, you and I have talked, in brief that I had a situation where I had had headaches for years, didn't know what they were, and they were getting worse, and they at first affected my peripheral vision. So I started falling. I would go to work and I would fall and fracture bones, end up in the hospital, and they wouldn't believe me, but like it's like nobody falls that often. But then it got quite bad towards the end. And I couldn't open my eyes if there was any light at all. I could not handle any light at all. So I would just still go to work. It was agony. I'd go home and I would sit there in the dark, um, listen to audiobooks basically. And in the end, I couldn't even do that. I couldn't even leave the house. They took care of it and everything. But I don't have an understanding. I mean, I was very, very lucky and very, very blessed. I mean, you say the word brain tumor, mine was a pituitary Rathke's cleft cyst. And I was blessed because how often do you get a diagnosis like that and it turns out to be benign? You get one surgery and it's gone. Do you know what I mean? It's like I've never been so grateful for anything in my life. But I have a fear of, because I now know what it's like not being able to see, like how it curtailed everything. So if you were a person that was living a life and you had your sight, it could be taken from any one of us at any time for any reason. It happens. Would that person then be able to, obviously, it would take a big mindset shift. They'd have to be willing to accept and move forward. But would they be able to learn Braille and have a fulfilling life and do all the things that they could do? Because that's terrifying. If you say someone like me, if that happened to me tomorrow, would I still be able to be a narrator? Would I be able to, because you spent your whole life learning Braille.
Well, it took me 10 years to become proficient,
Oh
and
gosh.
not everything is available in physical Braille. And just to put it in perspective, in the old days, when we had Braille books, and of course we still do, Braille books came in several volumes. You couldn't get just one book. So, to put it in perspective, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix came in 16 volumes, and
Wow.
the complete American Standard Bible was in 45 volumes. Imagine being the postal worker delivering that.
But Samuel, if you're narrating an audiobook, are you using a physical book and reading it with Braille? How are you reading it?
Oh no, I'm using what you could call a Braille tablet. Now, it's an Android device, and it has electric pins that go up and down, or I should say that refresh every time you press a button to go down or up a line. So it's basically like a screen in Braille. And so I read that. The main problem is that you cannot read ahead. You can't just read a phrase ahead and be reading that while you're narrating the previous one. You simply can't do it. Otherwise, you're going to lose your place. And if you're reading in Braille, even though you prepared, you are going to stumble a lot. It may happen even every sentence. Imagine you're using an auto cue, and and it only does 2 or 3 words at a time, and you have to read off that.
Okay, so then how do you do it? Is it just a lot of editing on the backside?
Well, I try to avoid that because I don't want to put too much work in front of the editor. What I do is I read a paragraph in Braille in my head,
Right.
and sometimes I'll read it twice if I'm not sure. And then I'll go back to the beginning of that paragraph, and then I will read it out loud while reading the Braille. And then I'll read the next paragraph in my head and
Wow.
read that out loud and carry on. I mean, Lorelei King, when I told her about the solution, she thought it was very elegant.
It is, but wow. Is it, and, but I bet you get really fast at it after a while.
Well, no, because if you go too fast, you're going to miss things.
Okay.
You're going to lose your place. And what can very easily happen is you think you know what's coming up, but then it doesn't happen. And so, for example, you could think it says for thee, but it comes out as for a when it's actually for a.
So that narrator that suddenly went blind, would they be able to pick up, learn, and get on with their job?
Not initially. It will take years. I'm not going to deny it. It will take years. It will mean adapting, just as you would adapt if you had, and if you were told by your doctor you had to change your lifestyle, otherwise you wouldn't live very long.
Or you
But
could just not go back to the doctor. I mean, just saying. Some
yes,
of us have chosen
but
that
we don't
option.
recommend that. But we can do other things. It just needs differences in the ways we do things. For example, when I'm cooking for everyday tasks, when I'm cooking, I have marked up. I have a marked up oven and a marked up air fryer, and talking induction hobs, and talking microwaves.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I quite like that. That's very Jetsons. Did you ever see the Jetsons? Did you ever have the Jetsons when you were a little kid, or is that just an American thing?
I think that might be American, but I don't know if it was audio described.
But you can get it on YouTube. If you can get something on YouTube, can you get it audio described or
Only if it's been done with audio description.
so older things are a problem then you wouldn't be able to get older things.
Well, it's not just older things. you're not going to have all videos on YouTube audio described. It actually has to be put on it has to be put on YouTube with description.
And is that with writing like subtitles and then you can read the subtitles
No,
through?
you'd have to have a recorded track.
Okay. Okay. Now, help me out here. So you do audio description, editing, proofing, directing, narrating. Um, what brought you to all this? Because the funny thing is, when you were describing your childhood, you sounded exactly like Byron Wagner, and so many. I can name like 30 narrators that have come on here and described their childhood with the audiobooks and the tape cassettes and the. So was that the start of it? At what did you try any other careers when you were younger, or was this your first?
Well, I originally wanted to do music production, and I wanted to be an actor originally, but I was told I would need to be able to inhabit the parts, and I realized I couldn't do that, not physically. But I originally wanted to do music production, and I took a degree in live and studio sound at Southampton Solent University. But then when I finished, I found that the jobs wanted you to be expert in Pro Tools. And the thing about that is that when you can't see, tasks take longer. And Pro Tools, although it's accessible, that doesn't mean it's efficient.
Yeah, it's not
And
friendly. I do Pro Tools, and sometimes it's like a bad relationship. It's not your friend. Okay, so were you like upset when these things like the acting thing and the Pro Tools thing, or did you just think, right, okay, I'll take another turn? It sounds like you're very resilient. Did you just
well,
turn
I
around and
have to
go,
be.
yeah? I think
Well, you
that's your
have to be.
personality, though. I don't think that's the disability. I think that's your personality because, well, I actually think it's your parents.
Well, I can't sit around moping.
A lot of people do. A lot of people do these
But
days.
as a song, as an old song says, you need to pick yourself up, dust
Dust
yourself
yourself
off,
off and
and
start
try
all
it
over
all
again.
over again.
Okay, so you picked yourself up. You thought, nope, not Pro Tools. What was the next step?
Well, I decided that I wasn't getting anything in music, but I've been doing sound editing with Goldwave for so long and been playing around with it. And so I thought I'll do audiobooks because I realized that my acute my acute critical listening skills could be used in audiobooks because I could pick up things such as tongue clicks and loud breaths. And so I thought I'd do that. And I decided to look for jobs in audiobook work.
How long ago was this?
Well, I decided to go into audiobooks about 10 years ago.
So around the same time I have you ever listened to the Agatha Raisin series by Penelope Keith?
No, I haven't.
Samuel, you have to. I think you'll love it. I'm
I want,
listening for the fifth time, and there's like 30 something books in it. I'm listening to the whole series again. You'll love it. She's amazing.
well, I'll see if it's available on the RNIB reading services.
Should be. It should be. I would be disappointed if it wasn't. Oh, and can you listen to the first book I ever did on the RNIB? Because I never got to hear it, and I'm dying to know if it sucked or if it was decent.
Well, what's it called?
It was The Days of Anna Madrigal.
Is it published by one of the big five?
I don't know that I did it through RNIB.
Ah, yes, I should be able to listen to that.
Yeah, listen and just tell me if it was horrible or any good. I've
I'll do
always
that
wanted to know.
privately.
Um, so Kim has a question for you. You seem so even-keeled, right? That's what I keep telling him. Just wondering, did you have one of those teenage moments? Oh yeah, did you have one of those teenage moments of rebellion when you were of that age? Like
Not really,
high
no. I
school?
wasn't interested in all the sex stuff that everyone else was into. I just wasn't into it.
I'm trying to remember if maybe you shouldn't listen to Anna Madrigal. It's very liberal, edgy San Francisco-y. You might be put off by it. Maybe don't
Well,
listen.
I'll have a listen, and I can take it because I used to in university listen to crime thrillers while making my meals in halls. So people would be coming in and hearing graphic descriptions of post-mortem examinations while they were trying to make pasta.
Yeah, I knew I liked you. Okay, so you're you're doing editing, you're doing all this. When did you decide to take the leap to actually narrating?
Well, it's just out of necessity, really, because I've been trying to get into the R&IB as a producer for several attempts and being turned down by them. Even though I was blind, even though I'm blind, they don't have to employ every blind person. Well, they can't, can they?
Yeah.
So I just found that it just wasn't happening. I just wasn't getting any jobs, and I tried the editing, but other companies have said, well, you take too long or you miss bits out, and so we need someone who can do it more efficiently. And to give them their due, they do have a point, because I understand both sides. I can understand that disability rights will say, just because we're doing it slower, it doesn't mean that we are incapable or unproductive or incompetent. But I also understand that other organizations, they do have deadlines that may not be able to negotiate, and it's not down to them. And it can lead, and it can be that they can't say, we're using a blind person and you're not being inclusive if you don't change the deadline, because of course all the client will say is, well, if you can't do it, we'll find someone who can.
Yeah, because there's the chain with the deadline. So their deadline is someone else's deadline. But do you ever narrate from home? Are you set up to narrate from home?
Well, I am now, because the thing is, there's a common assumption that blind people and disabled people in general have support available when they need it at their beck and call. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's always a fight to get state support, because there is only a limited amount they can give you. And the only support I really have is an aging parent. And so what I did was I got a voiceover artist. Well, I asked him to come and help me set up a booth similar to the way he'd done it.
Mm.
And with his help, and with the help of some members of my church, I was able to set one up. I don't use a computer for recording. I use a Zoom H4e recorder. And although it's not the perfect solution, it does have some advantages, because you don't have to go and you don't have to set up a session on the computer. You don't have to set up a session like you do on the computer. All you do is go in, sit down, load the book up on your tablet, turn on the Zoom recorder, unmute the you arm the microphone. You start up the Zoom recorder, you arm the microphone, press record, off you go.
So you can set your own deadlines now.
Well, I try to be reasonable, but even if I'm reading for other people, I would prefer them to set me a deadline, because if I set my own deadline, I can move it about, and I'd be tempted to procrastinate.
But you can but the thing is, the problem of you not being able to be fast enough for their deadlines, audiobook narrators often say that they won't be able to submit a book for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, depending on how busy they are. So them wanting quick turnaround isn't a problem so much anymore for you, because even if you're having them set the deadline, you can choose realistic deadlines. Because if you needed, say somebody that can see can turn a book around in 4 days. If you need 2 weeks, they don't know. It's an even playing field, isn't it? Because another narrator could be booked up for the next 2 weeks and not deliver. See what I'm saying? It's none of anyone's business. how fast you go as long as you submit to the pre-approved deadline.
I see what you mean now. As long as you're
You're
not
you're
putting
your
it with a
own
big
boss.
fine.
You're in charge. They don't have to know. It's like the Wizard of Oz. They don't have to know what's going on behind the curtain.
Well, I do have some ways of speeding up the process, though.
Oh, okay. Tell us about it. I want to hear.
Well, what I do is I think I would take a leaf out of Billy Fulford Brown's book because she uses a prepper for
Mm,
her books. And so what I would do is I would see if I could get a prepper to do the research for the pronunciations while I do the reading and marking up of the book.
that's smart. And also, it's not the fun part either. So you're not missing out on anything.
But of course, I mark up in a way that I can read, but doesn't allow me, but doesn't give me the problem of reading my own marks out loud.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? That's actually a problem for sighted people. I see that a lot. People over marking up and they go in there and they're not paying attention to the book. They're not thinking, they're not in the moment. They're spending all their time reading their little notes in purple, green. We all did that when we first started recording, right? The whole pack of pens, 80 different colors. I remember I actually printed each book out and read it off paper.
You can't do that when you're blind.
Yeah. Well, you're not missing anything because it was stupid.
Well, what I do is I use punctuation marks that I know mean certain things, but I will ask for the script in docx because PDF doesn't allow you to edit. And of
Yeah.
course, using a screen reader, which you are technically doing on the Braille tablet, it will reformat the PDF. And if you have to submit it to an editor, that can cause problems. So I will use Adobe's PDF converter to convert it to docx and then mark on the actual script. For example, I might do a greater than sign to show that something needs emphasizing, and I will in brackets before the line of a character, if there's no attribution, I will put the character's name before they speak.
That's smart. That's smart. I got caught out in a voiceover job today because sometimes the tech, it's easy to do the tech that you're familiar with doing, but then when you're in a new situation and then something tech hits you, all of a sudden, you don't want that feeling of like you've just walked out of the ladies' room and there's toilet paper stuck on your foot, right? You don't want to embarrass yourself. So the client was like, emphasize this word in line 2 and this word in line 8, and then make this. And I didn't have anywhere to write notes or type them. I had two computers over a screen, and I'm sitting here going, okay, line 4, line 8, and just trying to remember it. Do you ever have to just remember things? I mean, do you ever have to, because what you're doing, you're memorizing pretty much a paragraph, aren't you? At home.
No, no, I'm not memorizing it.
You're remembering it though.
Well, what I'm doing is I'm using I'm reading it. I'm jogging my memory when I read it when I read it in my head, and so I'm more fluent when I'm reading it out loud because I'm still following the braille when I'm reading out loud.
Right, right, right.
Because otherwise I can miss things. I mean, that is why, if I can, I would prefer to have a director because I can't see a lot of the stuff. And as a director myself, I would like to be able to tell an actor, sorry, you said this instead of that. Because I'd find that helpful because sometimes I might not see something on the on the document. So for example, if there's an emoji that hasn't been translated, which unfortunately they don't. You can't really translate emojis in Braille. The director can say, there's a smiley face in there. Is there? Oh, yes. Oh, I didn't know that.
Do you give acting notes when you're directing as well, or is it just following the script?
Well, I just follow the script and let them know. And in fact, if you're following the script in Braille, you're actually reading at more or less the speed of a narrator themselves, so you can actually pick up more mistakes.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. Audio description. Can you please explain it to me again? Claudia Claudia explained it to us on a prior call. I don't know why I feel so stupid, but like I don't get it. And I should because it's a very straightforward idea. But will you please explain how you started and what it entails and what you love about it? Because you're quite well known for being good at it. So tell me about it.
Well, audio description is a narrative that uses pauses in dialogue in films to describe things such as body language, facial expressions, action sequences, scenery, and costumes. So it basically fills in the gap of the dialogue, the gaps between the dialogue, to tell you what's going on, as though it's a non-fiction audiobook.
So you're not including the words spoken, just
No.
the picture. You're drawing a picture.
Yes, you're actually think of it as a commentary on the radio,
Okay.
because
Okay.
it's if it's describing, if you've got a sports description, for example, if you're listening to a sports event on radio, although the pundits do sometimes talk among themselves, they tell you what's going on because the radio audience can't see what's going on. But in a film, it's as though you're listening to it's as though you're listening to a radio drama with a non-fiction narrator, or non-fiction narrator. Sorry, that's American narrator.
So how are you finding enough space to fit all that in?
Well, you have to fit around the time that you're given on the film. So
Right.
you might only have 6 seconds, but even for half a second can give you enough time to say something like, he gets out, or she smiles.
Okay, so if I'm listening to a radio drama, an audiobook that's a radio drama, I'm going to hear the front door ring. I'm going to hear the dog bark, the birds whistle. If I'm listening to an audiobook, I'm dependent upon the writer's description of the door ringing, the dog barking, or the whistle. If I'm watching a film with audio description, I'm listening to the characters speaking and someone is describing the door ringing, the dog barking, and the bird whistle, right?
They won't do that. They may say something like, Richard goes up and heads towards the door.
Got it. Got it. So is there a difference between good audio description and bad audio description? Are there some people that are better at it than others? What are the qualities you have to be good at it?
We'll ask 10 different people and you get 10 different answers.
Oh, okay.
But the thing is, for me, audio description has to be concise but comprehensive, because you don't want to fill every moment with description and you don't want to be too wordy. For example, in The Empire Strikes Back, it tries to be clever by saying that Luke launches into an overarching swing. Vader parries, then relaxes to a ready stance, and you think, what do those actually mean?
And that's taking you out of the story right there.
Yes, so if you were to say something like, Luke lunges, but Vader parries the blow, that's much easier to understand.
So tell me, Samuel, what's your big dream? What would you love to accomplish?
My big dream is to be able to be a director for audiobooks and or audio drama.
I can see you being really good at it. Would you give acting direction as well?
Can you clarify what you mean by acting direction?
Acting direction, whereas a lot of directors will follow the script, like when you go to RNIB, and if you skip a word, they'll say, no, you go back, you skip that word. But acting direction as in, hold on there. What was she thinking in that moment? Was she upset? Why was she upset? shouldn't have been upset considering, do you know what I mean? That extra, there's a bit of acting coaching. I can't say I've ever worked with an audiobook director that's done that. I worked with them in the RNIB, and it was just, and also for the Dreamscape books, it was the, oh no, you missed a word there, level of directing.
Well, it depends on the situation. If I think that, for example, a character should be more emotive, I'd say something like, "You're doing really well, Daniela. Can we have a bit more of the upset in the
Yep,
situation because
that's what
someone
I
has just
mean.
had
That's what I
this?"
mean. Are you interested in doing that? Do you think you'd like to add that?
Yes,
Yeah,
because I'd really love to be able to work for one of the big five
yeah.
publishers, that is.
I can see you being really good at that. Okay, now Patricia says, I took an audio description workshop last year and they asked that we write the script in addition to narrating it. Oh, is it often that the audio descriptor writes the script, or are you able to just record a pre-written script? That makes total sense, Patricia. I never thought of that.
Well, I can't write the script myself because, of course, I'm blind. It
Right.
would need two people to actually do that. I'd need someone to tell me what's on the script and somebody else
Right.
to actually and me to write it. Someone would have to tell me what's on the screen. I'd have to write it. But I don't do much recording of audio description myself. I'm more of an advisory capacity, though I'd like to do recording of audio description if the technology is more accessible. But I can do quality control if I'm asked. And this is one of the things I often say. I know people say how I'm inspirational and how I'm very good at this. And if only the commissioning editors and the publishers would actually see that as well, and they are willing to make reasonable adjustments, then they'd be queuing up to work with me.
But I think it's like, what is it they say about water against a stone? And I tell myself and everyone else this. Um, I know they're different things, but trying to get in with the big publishers, right? As a narrator, I know I'm the voice they need, but I kind of wish they knew it. You know what I mean? But it's literally doing exactly what you're doing consistently, just dripping that water against that stone consistently, a message after message after message, and consistently. That's what Sean Pratt says to us all when we start. You just hang on, because he always says it's some of the most talented people, and he sees them quit right before they could have had a breakthrough. So that's the thing. I think, have you seen that things are getting better over the last few years? I mean, have there been improvements? There have to have been improvements, right?
Well, he didn't tell me. He didn't tell me that what he told you, but I haven't been in his dojo yet. But I haven't seen much improvement. I think the issue is the fact is that a lot of people are scared to employ blind people because, of course, we take longer. And this is rather ironic. We would be very good at this. This is an industry that was originally designed for blind people, but we're not being given an opportunity to give back to it.
And also, doesn't it make common sense that if one of your senses, you're having to rely on your other senses? So your ability to pick things up in an audio format are probably far surpass somebody that has been able to rely on their sight and reading for so long. So, but this is the thing. I still think I get the reason the world is the way it is. People are afraid. People don't like change. That's the reason none of the bad stuff changes, because everyone's afraid. But I still think if we never shut up and we keep talking, especially you've got a way of saying what needs to be said. And if nobody ever shuts you up, and if we refuse to go away, people will eventually be worn down. And I don't have patience for the scared people. They need to get out of our lane and let the brave people through. They need to just go away. And the only way to get them to go away, the status quo, in Britain, is it status or status?
Status.
That's where it came from. Okay. The status quo will have to change eventually.
Well, I had to be very careful about how I do this because I don't want to sound confrontational, because although I've read a lot of posts and some books by disability advocates, we need to be realistic.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be idealistic,
Yeah.
because a lot of the stuff I'm reading from disabled people tends to be very ideological, and they often tout ableism. They say that something is ableist, and I'm very careful to only say that if something really is discriminatory,
But
because
that's what I love about you. I got told off by some woman in the comments. This is why I don't go on Clubhouse, guys. I'm on Clubhouse talking away, and all I said was, we need to be brave and chase the things that make us happy. I think that's our job, no matter what position you're in life. And this woman got very, very mad at me, said that I was ableist, and that there are a whole bunch of people in the world that can't chase what makes them happy, and that I'm making presumptions from my privileged corner of the world. And the thing is, I've read all your posts, Samuel. I don't think you have to be careful. I think you just have to keep doing exactly what you're doing,
well,
because
thank you.
your tone is perfect. It's perfect. And
Yes.
you don't censor what you say. I mean, you say you have to be careful, but it feels to me, reading your posts, that you pretty much put it out there.
Well, I would say to that person, you're looking at your privilege. I would say, well, what about the privilege you have? If you're check your own privilege before you check somebody else's, because I would actually say the people who I actually say that the most marginalized group is the dead. They don't get a voice. But I would also
Why should you be
say,
laughing that hard at that?
but I would also say that if we are too confrontational,
Yeah.
we can end up marginalizing other people without meaning to, because I know that a lot of disabled people, they will say to a lot of these publishers, you wouldn't discriminate like this if I was from another marginalized group. But I am very careful how I put that, because I don't want to unintentionally minimize somebody else's experience
Right. Right.
and put my experience above theirs, because it isn't an oppression Olympics. We are not playing a game of I'm oppressed more than you are. It's
Right. Like
different oppression groups.
this girl, or whoever, this person, that approach, that I felt like I was being accused of something. And all I had said was chase your dreams, like literally chase your dreams. And that puts me on the defensive. So how are you changing the world if you're just going to put everyone on the defensive that you don't agree with? But if you'd had a conversation with me and said, oh, do you think about this? And sometimes it's not so easy to chase your dreams. I'd be the first person to go, you know what I mean? To be open-minded. And it's a conversation. You open conversations. And I love that. And I was
Yes,
actually bragging about you because I was talking.
define me. I think my Christianity, my faith, has more on my identity than my disability. And the fact is, it's learning to be content where we are and knowing that there are going to be challenges. And although I do chase my dreams, I am not over enthusiastic about it, but I make sure I look at it in a realistic sense. And of course, there is there are things that are going to be difficult, and sometimes I do have my moments where I do feel like letting off steam, but those are not the usual. They are not what I originally. They're not what I. They're not the norm for me. I mean, if I was to be really, I mean, you say I say what I think. Well, I do censor myself because I don't want to, because sometimes I can end up thinking, if I've heard an audiobook, I might sometimes think, why wasn't I producing this? Or
Oh, we all
they
think
should.
that. Why wasn't I chosen for that? We all think that, Samuel. We literally all have thought that at one time or another. And if someone says they haven't, they're lying. That's because you're an actor. That's not your disability. That's your because you're an actor.
But of course, I have to be, yeah, as I said, I don't say exactly what I think because I don't think people would want to hear
Yeah.
the things that I are not so pleasant.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point. But I I think you have a strong sense of self. And I think that's where it comes from. You have a strong sense of self, so you don't seem to react with hurt and fear. It's I had a conversation with someone that's going to be an upcoming guest, and she said something. I won't get into it because until she comes on the call, but she said something, and I've literally not gotten this sentence out of my head. It's been 3 weeks now. She'd made some changes in her life, and she said, I feel like my life is going to be okay. And I literally almost cried. And it's such a simple sentence, but I had to ask myself, when was the last time I felt like my life was going to be okay? Like at the end of the day, I think that's it, isn't it? That's everything. I just feel like my life is going to be okay. We're all like trying to play dodgeball, aren't we? To avoid any and I think your parents and your background and your religion, your faith have given you like a strength. So like do you not feel like because you're so strong in that way that your life is going to be okay? You've got this.
Well, I was actually brought up in a Christian home, so that's where my faith came from. And I believe that my life is going to be, it depends on what happens, but I don't dwell on what life is going to be. And in fact, I can tell you that being a Christian actually helped me come to terms with my disability. It allowed me to actually rely on it more. And it was a humbling, it was very humbling to know that my disability wasn't going to change, but I could still have my faith.
Did you are you have you ever thought of writing a book?
Well, I don't think so, no, because I don't think I have anything that other people haven't said.
I think you do. I think
Well,
you
I
should
probably need a
consider it.
ghostwriter.
No, I think writing your book. I think your ideas and your faith and your strength and lessons you've learned and the things you think and the way you approach life. And you're really, really young right now. Give it a couple
Well,
more years, it'll be even more. I think just keep it in the back burner there, Samuel. I would buy it.
well, I'd have to think who would read it because I want someone else to do it rather than have me do it.
Yeah, Kim would buy it, Patricia would buy it too. And so yeah, I mean, see, that's the thing. You could choose your narrator. You can okay. So we've only got a few minutes left. I've got one final question. And also, Liz, I'm sorry, you're letting down the team here. We cleared a chair for you. You've
I'll get
not
her up.
popped up and said hi to any of us.
Come on, come on. I'm just getting her to come up, or trying to. Come on.
The empty chair all
Oh,
night, Liz,
there
we're
she is.
waiting.
There she is.
Kim says you need to narrate it yourself, your book.
There's Liz. Can you see her?
No, we
She's.
can't see her. Liz, you got to stand
I'll
up straighter or put the
I'll
screen
move
down
the
a bit.
camera so you can see her.
You guys have to see Liz. She's the most gorgeous thing you've ever seen.
Can you see her now?
Nope. She's just below. I think she's hiding.
She's nearly there. I'll just have to move the.
Liz! You guys have got to see her. Those eyes.
Can you see her
Right?
now?
Right? She's so gorgeous. She's hiding from the camera. She's literally putting her head down.
Can you see her?
Yes. Hi, sweetie pie. We'll let you go back to sleep now. Okay,
And she's a Guinness fan.
Samuel, here's the question no one escapes. Two things. Kim says you have to narrate your book yourself, and Patricia says I'm in love with Liz. We're all in love with Liz. Samuel, if somebody watches this video in 100 years or so, and if they take nothing else away from it, what thought or words of wisdom or piece of advice would you like to leave them with?
I would say you can chase your dreams, remember what you're capable of, be content where you are, but that doesn't mean you can't chase your dreams.
Perfect. Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much for joining us and for your time. And thank you, Liz. We love you. And we will see you on the other side.
Thank you. Let's hope this leads me to more commissions.
You are all you need, Samuel. Just keep doing exactly what you do, and all the good stuff will come to you. It just takes longer than any of us want it to, but just keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys. Bye, Kim. Bye, Patricia. Mwah! Bye, Liz. Bye, Samuel.
Goodbye.